Introduction to decimals. Decimals located to the right of a decimal point occupy decimal places. The decimal places are represented by powers of 10 that would appear in the denominator of equivalent fractions written in fraction form. Okay, so we're getting a little complicated. There's a relationship between decimals and fractions. So even though we're talking about decimals, we can't get away from fractions. So we're going to go on. And, fractions aren't that bad, and decimals aren't that bad, but there is a relationship between both of them. The first place to the right of the decimal point is the tenths place, because it is representative of the common fraction 1/10. Likewise, the second place to the right of the decimal point is the hundredths place, because it is representative of the common fraction 1/100th. Okay, so down over here, we have a little chart, and the decimal point here is at the bottom. To the left of the decimal point, in green, we have the ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, and then past the thousand, we have the 10,000s, 100,000s, then after 100,000s would be millions, so forth. That's the whole numbers. And now to the right of the ones, which we haven't talked about previously, is the tenths place. There is no ones place. It starts at the tenths. Okay, so it's tenths, hundredths, and then thousandths. Those are in purple there. So tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So you might want to write down this chart. It's going to be very necessary to memorize. And then it's 10,000ths, 100,000ths, and then millionths, and then 10 millionths, 100 millionths, and then billionths. And after billionths, it would be 10 billionths, and then 100 billionths, and then after 100 billionths, it would be trillionths. So it would go on in the same pattern. Okay, so once again, there's no ones. Sometimes people put in ones, but no ones. Starts at tenths. Okay, there's the same chart again. So let's look at, we're used to dealing with money. The first, here's a dollar value, $4.37, right? The number in front of the decimal point is the dollars, right? 4. It means 4 ones. We have $4. The 3 is in the tenths place. It means tenths of a dollar. If we think about it as a coin, it means the dimes. Tenths of a dollar, the dimes. And the 7 is in the hundredths place. The coin would represent the pennies. It would be the hundredths of a dollar. A penny is a hundredth of a dollar, because 100 pennies is a dollar. Yeah, that makes more sense, right? So you see why there's no ones. That first place after the decimal is the tenths place. And then the second place after the decimal is the hundredths place. The third place would be the thousandths place. So if we had another coin after pennies, that coin, 1,000 of that coin would be a dollar. Well, we don't even want to deal with pennies, right? They're kind of a hassle. Here's a number that's doesn't have a dollar value in front of it. 73.652. The 7 is in the tens place, so 7 tens. The 3 is in the ones place. The 6 is in the tenths place. The 5 is in the hundredths place, and the 2 would be in the thousandths place. Okay, so once again, I hope you have that chart memorized. If not memorized yet, memorize soon. For right now, at least written down somewhere in your notebook. For any math class you take, you always want to have a notebook where you have your notes that you're writing down so that you can always refer back to that when you're doing your homework. And a place that you could study before you take your exams. Okay. Yeah, I mentioned a notebook. A lot of people really don't know how to prepare or take math classes at the college level. And it's really just about being organized. Having a notebook is really one of the first things to do. Having a notebook where you have your notes, where you keep all your homework, where you keep all your exams, where you keep your practice exams, where you prepare for your final, particular final. Okay, here's our first topic that we're going to talk about. Writing a decimal in words. Procedure. For writing a decimal in word form, step 1. Write the whole number part in words, and that will be the number to the left of the decimal point. Write the word "and" in place of the decimal point, so the word "and" represents the decimal point. If you remember writing whole numbers in words, we could not use the word "and." Sometimes we say it and we use the word "and" improperly. For instance, if I say 402, that means 402, but I really said that wrong. If you want to say the number 402, you should just say 402, not 402. So many times we say it incorrectly, but the word "and" mathematically represents the decimal point. So the "and" represents the decimal point. Okay, step 3. Write the decimal part in words as though it were a whole number, followed by the name of the place value of the last digit. Okay, so make sure you have that written down, and you could always pause the video because we're going to do a few examples. If I go too fast, just always pause it, and then write your notes, and then click on play when you're ready to keep going. Okay, here's our first one. Write 73.652 using words. Okay, so write the whole number part in words. So that's the number to the left of the decimal point. So you just write the number in front of the decimal, that's 73. So don't forget to write the hyphen between the number 70 and 3. So 70 hyphen 3. And then put the "and" in place of the decimal point. Okay. And now we're going to put the number after the decimal point. That would be 652. 600, right? 652. There's 3 numbers. So don't even worry about what place it is in yet. Just write down the number. There's 3 numbers, so you would say 652. Don't forget the hyphen between the 50 and the 2. Okay, now then it says followed by the place value of the last digit. So what is the place value of the 2? The first place value, the 6 is in the tenths, the 5 is in the hundredths, and the 2 is in the thousands. Then just write thousands. It's all done. Okay. Let's try another one. Okay. So write the number before the decimal point. 245. So 3 numbers. Cover up the 0045. How would you write that down? 245. Remember, 40 is F-O-R-T-Y, not F-O-U-R-T-Y. A hyphen between the 40 and the 5. Okay. Then the word and. Okay. Then the number after the decimal point. Well, there's a couple of zeros and then a 37. Well, we're not going to write down the zeros, so just simply write down 37. Don't forget the hyphen between the 30 and the 7. Now, what place is the 7 in? So use your chart, and what place is the 4th place after the decimal? Right, the 10,000ths. And the 10,000ths has a hyphen between the 10 and the thousandths. Right, I sure hope you wrote down that chart from the video. You didn't write it down in your notes. Uh-oh. Maybe go back and rewind that video, write down the notes, if you haven't done so yet. Or hopefully you have it in your book. Okay, one or the other. But you might not always have your book around when you're doing some of these problems. So, it's always just a good idea to have that chart written down. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. Okay, here's some problems for you to do. This is our first example. Pause the video, work on these on your own, and then click on play when you're ready to get started. Or when you're ready to see the answers. Okay, the first one, there's no whole number, so we don't have to even write down the 0. We're just going to go right to the number after the decimal point. You don't even need the word and, because there is no whole number in front of the decimal point. So what number is after the decimal point? Just 3. And what place is it in? The tenths. So you just simply write down 3/10. You don't have to write down 0 and. So if you wrote down 0 and, maybe the directions weren't clear as far as that goes. Cross out the 0 and. You don't need that 0 and. Simply write down 3/10. Okay. So when there's no whole number in front of the decimal point, you don't need the 0. You don't need the and. Okay, part B. This one does need the and because it has a whole number in front. This will be 7 and 34 hundredths. 7 and 34 hundredths. Okay, C. The number in front of the decimal is 212. So 212 and the number after the decimal is just 8. And then what place is the 8 in? Hundredths. So 212 and 8 hundredths. Okay. D. That would be 5 and the number after the decimal point, there's 3 numbers. So that would be 375. So 5 and 375. And then what place is the 5 in? The 3rd place after the decimal would be the thousandths. Again, don't forget that hyphen between the 70 and the 5. You don't want to lose points on the test because you didn't put the hyphen between the 70 and the 5. Okay, this one does not have a whole number in front of the decimal, so we don't need that, and we don't need the word and. So 1814, there's 4 numbers, so we read it just like a whole number. That'll be 1814. So we need a comma after you write 1000. So 1814, and then the 4th place after the decimal is the 10,000ths. So 1814 10,000ths. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Changing a decimal written in words to decimal notation. When writing decimals in decimal notation, make sure the last digit is in the stated place value. Okay, write the following in decimal notation. 5 hundredths. Okay, so we want to write it with decimals, not in words, just in decimals. 5 hundredths. Well, we just want to make sure that that number 5 is in the hundredths place. And there's no and. We don't have an and. That means there's no number in front of the decimal point. So the whole number is just 0. Okay. So we just have to make sure that the 5 is in the hundreds place. So would it be 0.5? No, it wouldn't be 0.5 because that would be 5/10. So it has to be 0.05. So the 5 must be in the hundreds place. So 0.05. Okay. So you just have to make sure you put enough zeros in front of the number. That's really the tricky part to this, is making sure you put the right amount of zeros to make sure that that number 5 is in the right position. Okay. If you didn't put a 0 in front, it would only be 5/10. You see what I'm saying? If you only put 0.5, it would be 5/10. We don't want 5/10, we want 500ths. Okay, 47 and, okay, so that there's that and. That means that our whole number is the 47. That goes in front of the decimal point. And 12 10,000ths. So 12, we want the last digit of the 12, which is a 2. We want that to be in the 10,000ths place. Okay, so we're going to have to put some zeros there, and we want to make sure the 2 is in the 10,000ths place. Well, how many places after the decimal is the 10,000ths place? Is it the second? No, that's just the hundreds place. Is it the third? No, that's a thousandths place. Is it the fourth? Yes, that's the 10,000ths place. So we want the 2 to be in the 4th place. I wrote a couple notes here. The word and, the words before and give the whole number in front of the decimal point. The number 12 comes after the decimal point. We just need to make sure the last digit is in the 10,000ths place by placing enough zeros before the 12. So it's 47.0012. Again, notice that the 2 now is in the 10,000ths place. It's in the 4th place after the decimal point. So if you only had 1 0, then the 2 would be in the 3rd place, and then it would not be in the 10,000ths place. It would only be in the thousandths place. So you have to put the right amount of zeros. Sometimes you don't even have to put any zeros. Sometimes you have to put a few zeros. It just depends the numbers that were given. Okay, let's go to the next slide. We're going to write the following in decimals. So you might want to go ahead and pause this video. work on those problems, and then click on play when you're ready to see the answers. Okay, 7/10. So there's no whole number. The 7 must be in the tens place. The tens is the first place after the decimal point. So that is 0.7. Yep. 18 and, so that's going to be before the decimal point, and 22 hundredths. So the 2 has to be in the hundreds place. So do we need to add any zeros? No, because the second 2, that 22, has to be in the second position. That works out just right, 22. No zeros are necessary. 5 and 9 thousandths. Do we need to add any zeros to make sure that the 9 is in the thousandths place? Yes, because the 9 must be in the thousandths place. The thousandths place is the third place after the decimal point. And 9 is only a single number, so I need to put 2 zeros before the 9 to make sure that that 9 is in the third position after the decimal point. $200 and 302 thousandths. So 200 goes before the decimal, 302 goes after the decimal, and the 2 has to be in the thousandths place, 302, and the thousandths has got to be the last place value. That means the 2 has to be in the thousandths place, which is the third position. And 302 is 3 numbers, so it works out we don't need any zeros before the 302. So that's it. 64 ten thousandths. So the 4 must be in the 10 thousandths. The 10 thousandths is in the fourth position, the fourth place after the decimal point. 64 is only 2 digits, so we're going to need a couple of zeros in front of it. So 0.0064. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Converting a decimal to a fraction or a mixed number. So here's our relationship where we're changing now a decimal to a fraction. If the decimal has a whole number in front of it, that's what's going to give us a mixed number. If there is no whole number in front of it, it's not going to be a mixed number. Okay, so if the decimal has a whole number in front of the decimal point, this will be the whole number part of the mixed number. The digits to the right of the decimal point will be the numerator of the fraction. The place value of the last digit will be the denominator. What that means is if the last digit is in the tenths place, the denominator will be 10. If the last digit is in the hundredths place, the denominator will be 100. If the last digit is in the thousands place, the denominator will be 1,000. Okay? Reduce the fraction if possible. So even if we don't say to reduce a fraction, you always want to reduce. Okay, write the following as fractions or mixed number. So 0.4, or how would you say that? For what? What place is the 4 in? That's right, it's in the tenths place, 4 tenths, right? 4 tenths, so you put 4 over 10, that's right. 4 tenths, 4 over 10. Can we reduce it? Yeah, you bet. Divide it by 2. 2 goes into both numerator and denominator. Yeah, you knew you couldn't get away from reducing fractions. So that gives us 2 over 5. 7 and, so the 7 is just going to be a whole number in front of the fraction. 8 over 7 and 8 what? 7 and 8, what place is the 8 in? Hundreds. So 7 and 8 over 100. 7 and 8 over 100. Can we reduce what goes into both 8 and 100? Let's see, 2 goes into 4. Yeah, 4 goes into both of them. So that gives us 7 and 2 over 25. That wasn't so bad, right? Okay, let's go to the next slide. If you might have to review reducing fractions if you haven't done any fractions for a while. That might be an issue. But the fractions aren't too bad. They're usually just dividing by 2 or 4 or 5, one of those numbers. Okay, because 100, these numbers are always powers of 10. So you could always keep dividing by 2. 2 is a really good number to keep dividing by, or 5. So whenever you're reducing, just remember these are the two numbers to divide by, 2 and 5. Whether the denominator is 10 or 100 or 1,000. Okay, you don't have to worry about dividing by 6. Because 6 is not going to go into 100. Okay, and that's because 3 doesn't go into 100. Just remember 2 and 5. The reason why 4 goes into it is because there's 2 2's in 4. So 2 twice. Okay. You might want to pause this one, work on it on your own, and then click on play when you're ready to start and when you're ready to see the answers. Okay. First one, 0.9, that's 9 over 10, because that's 9/10, so 9 over 10. And that doesn't reduce, right? So that's all done. Second one, B, has a whole number in front, so that's 11 and 2/10. 11 and 2/10. 2 goes into 2, and 2 goes into 10, so divide them both by 2. So 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 10 5 times, so that would be 11 and 1/5. Notice I try to box all the answers. Always on tests, try to box your answers so the teacher's clear about what your answer is. You always want to make it neat for him or her to figure out what your answer is. Okay, 8 and 36. Second place is the hundredths, so 8 and 36 hundredths. We could divide by 2 and then divide by 2, or you could divide by 4. 4 goes into both of them. That will give you 8 and 9/25. And E, that's 55 over the third place is the thousandths. We will divide by 5, 11 over 200. Sometimes it looks really terrible, like, oh my gosh, 1,000. It's not as bad as it looks. Like I said, when you have numbers like 1,000 or 100, you just have to worry about 2 and 5, maybe 4. Okay, you don't have to worry about lots of other numbers. So just keep dividing by 2 or 5, and you'll end up reducing. You might have to divide by 2 a number of times, but that's it. Okay. So like that last one on part D, if you didn't divide by 4, if you divided by 2, you would have got 18 over 50, and then divide by 2 again, and then you would have got 9 over 25. So it takes 2 steps, not a big deal, as long as you get the right answer. Okay, writing a fraction where the denominator is a power of 10 as a decimal. So we're changing a fraction to a decimal. So now we're going the other way around. We're changing the fraction to a decimal. We're only doing certain fractions. We're going to have a lesson later on where we change other fractions to decimals. So For instance, like this fraction, you'll see the examples at the bottom, like 7 over 10. We're going to change that to a decimal. But for instance, 3 over 8. If the denominator is like 3 over 8, we're going to do that later on. So it's only if the denominator is like a 10 or 100 or 1,000 that we're going to change it to a decimal. Later on, if it's like 3 over 8 or 2 over 7, we'll do that in a later video. Okay? So if the denominator is a power of 10, such as 10, 100, 1,000, then its decimal equivalent will have the same number of places as there are zeros. The last digit will be in the place value equal to the denominator. For example, if the denominator is 10, that's what that's saying. If the denominator is equal to 10, then the last digit will be in the tens place. If it's 100, the last digit will be in the hundreds place. If it's 1,000, that should be thousands place. Sorry about, let me make a little. Sorry, looks kind of bad. Just using a mouse here to kind of. No, it looks bad. But I don't want to do this video over again. Thousands. Thousands. Okay, sorry about that. So if the denominator is 1,000, then the last digit will be in the thousands place. If there's a whole number in front of the fraction, then the whole number will be the same whole number in front of the decimal point. Okay. Write the following as decimals. 7 over 10. Okay, so 7 tenths, so the 7 has to be in the tenths place. So that would be 0.7. That's it. And then 4 and 3 over 100, well, the 4 is going to be in front of the decimal point. Okay, and the 3 has to be in the hundreds place. So that means we have to put a 0 in front of the 3 so that the 3 is in the hundreds place, so 4.03. Okie doke. Let's do a few more problems. Alright, write the following as decimals. So 3 tenths. Might want to go ahead and pause the video while you work on these. Okay, 3 over 10, so that would be 0.3. 7 and 9 over 100, that would be 7.09. 25, so here's part C, 25 and 27 over 100, that would be 25.27. And then 6 and 43 over 1,000, that would be 6 point, let's see, we want the 3 to be in the thousands place. So that would be 6 point, do we need a 0 in the front of the 43? Yeah, because if you just put 6.43, the 3 will only be in the hundreds place. So 6.043. Now the 3 is in the thousands place. So if you read that back, that gives you 6 and 43 thousandths. Yeah, that's it. Perfect. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. Rounding. Oh, this is important. When we get to dividing with decimals, so we're going to have videos on adding with decimals and subtracting with decimals. Those aren't too bad. Everybody does that fine. Multiplying with decimals isn't too bad, but dividing with decimals, that gets interesting. And sometimes we're going to have to round with decimals. And sometimes they don't end, and we're going to have to round them because they just don't end. And so that's when this gets to be really important. So to round to a certain place, locate the digit in the place value which is to be rounded. Consider the next digit to the right. Okay, so we've done rounding with whole numbers, and we always look to the digit to the right. If the digit to the right is 5 or greater, we round up, and that means add 1 to the specified place value. If the digit to the right is 4 or lower, round down, and what that means is that the specified place value remains the same. When rounding to a specific place, the last digit written should be the specified place value. Do not write any digits past that value. So if they tell you to round to the tenths, the last number that you write down is the tenths. If they tell you to round to the hundreds place, the last number you write down is the hundreds place. Okay, so here's our first example. Round to the specified place value, 0.274. And in parentheses it says tenths. And what we're saying is we're going to round that number to the tenths. Okay, so what number is in the tenths place? Okay, so we're going to use, what number is in the tenth place? The 2 is in the tenths place, right? So our tenths place is 2, so we look to the right. It's a 7. So is it 5 or more, or 4 or lower? It's 5 or more. So we look to the right of that number. Just kind of making some marks here. So since it's 7, are we going to add 1 or leave it the same? Add 1. Okay, so what's our answer then? 0.3. That's it. That's our answer. And that's the last number to write down, 0.3. Okay. 5.452. So find the hundreds place. Which number is the hundreds place? The 5, right? That second 5, not the first 5. The second 5. And look to the right, it's a 2. Is it 5 or more, or 4 or less? It's 4 or less. So what are we going to do with the hundreds place? Leave it alone. So our answer is 5.45. Okay, so we're going to do quite a few of these. Okay, so let's round these to the tenths place. Okay, so 0.27. And you might want to pause if you got a good handle of these. Go ahead and pause, work these out, and then we'll get started. But we'll go through them kind of slow. Okay, so 0.27. Which number is the tenths place? The 2. So look to the right. It's a 7. So if it's 5 or more, and I don't know if that helps out. Like, then we'll make a little mark. There's the tenths place, so we look to the right. It's a 7. Are we going to add 1? Yeah, we're going to add 1. So what's our answer? 0.3. Okay, so where's our tenths place here? 5. Look to the right. Try to make a little arrow to it. Are we going to add 1? No, because it's 4 or less. So what's our answer? 5.5, because we leave it the same. Okay, let's try the next one. Underline the tenths place. 3. Okay, look at the number to the right. What is it? It's a 9. Is it 5 or more or 4 or less? It's 5 or more. And what does it say if it's 5 or more? Add 1. Add 1 to what? To the specified place. So that means add 1 to the tenths. That's the specified place, the tenths. So we're going to add 1 to this number. So what's our answer? 16.4. And then that's the last number to write down. All right. 3.97. There's our tens place. Look to the right, it's a 7. So we're going to add 1. So that's 9 plus 1 is 10. If we add 10, we've got to carry the 1. So 1 and 3 is 4. So what do we get? 4.0. Because we got to carry the 1 there. 9 and 1 is 10. So the 1 goes over here with a 3. 9, and then that gives us a 0 there. Okay. Here's our tenths. Look to the right, it's a 2. So what are we going to do with this 3? Nothing. We don't even care about these other numbers over here. All we care about is the first number to the right. They're just there to, they're just extra numbers. All we care about is the first number to the right. So what's our answer? 295.3. Okay, last one for this part, 70.06. Tenth place is a 0. Look to the right, it's a 6. So that's 5 or more. What's our answer? Good, 70.1. Okay, you might want to pause. This is the hundreds place. So you're just going to look at the hundreds place, look at the right, look to the right, and if it's 5 or more, add 1. Add 1 to what? Add 1 to the hundreds place, and if it's 4 or less, leave the hundreds place alone, and the hundreds place is the last number to write down. Okay, I want to pause, go and work on it, and then click on play when you're ready to see the answers. Okay, so 0.4, see that was a 9, so it's 5 or more, add 1, so that would be 4.3. And then this is a 6, look to the right, it's a 3, so we're going to leave that number the same. So 0.76. This number is a 9. Look to the right, it's a 5. So look to the right, so we're going to add 1. 9 plus 1 is 10. So, or you think about it, 79. 79 plus 1 is 80. Okay. If you don't write the zero, it's not a big deal, but you should write down, the last number you should write down is the hundreds place. So that's why it's a good idea to put that 0 there. Okay. Again, it kind of gives some extra numbers here, but we just need the hundreds place and the number to the right, which is a 4. That 8 is just an extra number that we don't need. So it's 4 or less. So what are we going to do with the hundreds place? That's right, leave it alone. So 6.25. Last two at the bottom. Here the hundreds place is a 2. Look to the right, it's a 9. So what are we going to do with that 2? Add 1. 312.73. One more. 2153. Hundreds place is a 1. Look to the right, it's a 5. So that's 5 or more, so we're going to add 1. So that'll be 3.22. Okay, I think we've got one more slide to go. Okay, round the following to the thousandths place. So the thousandths place is the third place. So the third place here, tenths, hundredths, is a 9. So we just need to look at the right to figure out what to do. Same rules. 5 or more, add 1. 4 or less, leave it alone. Okay, so what should we do? That's right, leave it alone. So what's our answer? 0.829. Oh, that's a typo though, huh? That should be an 2 right there. 829. Okay, 829. Sorry about that. 8, 2, 9. Probably worse. Okay, hopefully that's the last mistake. It's almost over, so good chance. 5.5379. Okay, which one is a thousandth place? Right, the 7 is in the thousandth place. So look to the right, it's a 9. So what are we going to do with the 7? Add 1. So 5.538. Okay, might want to pause, try to do the next couple. 10 thousandths and millionths. It's still just the same procedure. Find that place value, look at the number to the right, 5 or more, add 1, 4 or less, leave it the same. And then don't write anything past that place value. Okay, 10,000th place. Which number is the 10,000th place? Because tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths. It's the 4th place. You can look at your chart. So the 3 is in the 10,000ths. Look at the number to the right. It's a 5. So what are we going to do with that 3? Yeah, add 1. So we get 2874. 0.2874. Okay. Our 10,000th place here is, again, the 4th place. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a 5. Look to the right, it's a 4. So what are we going to do with that 5? We're going to leave it alone. 4, 5, 4, 5. Okay, millionth place. Wow, millionth place. So after the 10,000th place, that's the 4th place. What comes after the 10,000th place? 100,000th place. 100,000ths. That's the 5th place. And then after the 100,000th place, then it's the millionth place. That's the 6th place. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. That is the millionth place. That number 6 right there is a millionth place. We're going to look at the number to the right. Luckily, we have one more number. And if there's no number to look to the right, like let's say that 7 was a millionth place, well then that's it. There's nothing to look at to the right, so just leave it alone. Okay, so 6, we look to the right of the 7, so we could add 1. So our answer is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. Okay. So again, we're looking at the 6th place. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Look to the right, it's a 3, so we're going to leave it the same. So the last number to write down is just the 5. Okay, so this first video is a little bit long. Next ones aren't too bad. Adding decimals, you're not going to have a hard time with that. Subtracting decimals or multiplying with decimals. Maybe when we get to dividing with decimals, that'll be a little bit of a challenge, but it won't be too bad. This one was a little bit lengthy. I'll see you here for the next video.